Hello, my name is Martin Spangberg. I work as a choreographer, and I have been invited as one artist of the first Obscene Festival on the 2020 edition to participate and propose something for the context under these rather demanding conditions that we have currently. I decided to try to shoot this video in just one take, and we will see what this will bring us to. We will probably fail. Due to a performance called Gerhard Richter in Pièce pour le Théâtre, a conversation started for a possible invitation to the context that was happening then, which now has been transformed into the Obscene Festival. And there was a piece that premiered in the Kunsten Festival in Brussels that was addressing maybe particularly two things. On the one hand, I was interested in returning to dance, and dance in a rather seemingly conventional sense, supporting forms of composition, forms of set material that over the last few or quite many years has been abandoned, if not even considered to be slightly controversial to work with. But but I was interested in thinking about what kinds of attention can set material and composition generate, in particular in relationship to how contemporary capitalist society has taken an interest in also making attention, making smaller and smaller amounts of time something that we think about as economic. As we know, it's a matter of how often and how efficiently do you check your emails, how often or efficient do you write a tweet, and so on and forth. So how much can we subdivide time and how much can we organize multitasking? But maybe then dance could think about attention in a different way, saying that in the performance you're not there to do exactly those things, but perhaps instead spend time with yourself and spend time with environments in a more inclusive and durational way. You know, there is amounts of situations around in the world where editing and fast forward seems to be the only way, but what about a dance that instead of being a matter of capturing the audience, allowing the audience to take their time? So perhaps a dance that comes across more like watching a tree in the wind, or watching the waves as they come towards the beach, than being occupied with city and media and those kinds of forms of attention. So therefore, during this summer, we started to think together, in respect of Corona, is there something else that we can think about together? A dance that... So we started to think about what can we do that is taking, instead of trying to bypass or sort of pretend that it's raining, that the COVID is not there, to take into account that this is actually something that really and fundamentally changes what dance can be and what dance can do and what dance can offer us in society. A second thing that was interesting to us, and that was the more thematic setup of the piece called Gerhard Richter. It was a piece that it dealt with forms of mourning, but I was interested in thinking about mourning again, not in respect of contemporary economics, but rather through a slightly different lens. Because in our contemporary times, or our current times, also mourning and grief is something that that economy wants to make money from, of course. So we think about mourning as something that we consume, either in respect of offering us pills to deal with it, or other kinds of therapeutic opportunities. It is also a matter of then kind of producing a somewhat an addictive relationship to mourning, so that we stay in mourning to continue to buy and to consume opportunities that will soothe our loss. But we could also think about this in respect of capitalism in a different way, that capitalism's idea is that we should mourn for a moment and then we should recover from it and go back to production. But I was interested in those two things. On the one hand, in respect of, can mourning be something that teaches us something? Can mourning be something that enriches us? And in this respect, in what ways then? And at the same time, is mourning something that can produce a form of resistance to capitalist structures and strategies? And I think it definitely can, in respect of mourning being a space, not that you overcome, but being rather a space through which you can transform life, and not in respect of better or worse, but simply different or otherwise. So one could say, instead of in a probabilistic way changing it, but in a contingent way, a way that was not possible to understand previously, or in ways that was simply very, very surprising. And out of these forms of mourning, we could also consider that instead of thinking about it as a resignment, we could then think about mourning also almost as a form of hope. Not hope for better salary or that it's going to be sunshine tomorrow, but a more form of abstract hope. And I consider that in fact that is very much what art's job is, to in times that are complex and difficult, to give us a sense of hope. A sense of hope, again, that makes it possible to stand up in the morning, that makes it possible to engage in things, that makes it possible to continue to be active. May that be in the ecological situation on the planet, may that be in communities, may that be on thinking about one's own development, or can we say, learning more about oneself. And here we come into a second level of my work, which is, or other different level of my work, which is, for the last, I would say, 15 to 20 years, my work has taken a strong interest in ecology. Although maybe I haven't really understood that was its interest until much later. But when looking back, I see that I have constantly been interested in, not in the kind of elementary or vulgar sense of ecology, which is still very valid and of importance, which would be to consider distributing your garbage, or not using plastic bags when you go shopping, or not flying, or something like this. But I've been very interested, because if art is interested in ecology in those ways, then it means that art becomes a vehicle or an instrument for other forms of interest. And I have always been very curious, it has always been very precious to me to consider my interest is an interest in art, and how art can understand the world, and how art can pursue the world, not using art to tell my story or tell a story of a political reality or forms of suffering or asymmetries in the world, etc. I'm interested in what art can do that nothing else can do, and in my case what dance can do and nothing else. Which is also why my performance is, to some extent, perhaps appears as unorthodox and perhaps even sort of old school, But I'm insisting on not transforming dance into performance, and to understand, and to be curious and responsible to the notion of form in dance. So the performance that we will do for the Obscene Festival is going to revisit especially Gerhard Richter in Pièce pour le Théâtre, but also a couple of other pieces that was created after 2016, which was the year for Gerhard Richter, especially a performance called The Climate from 2019. The piece we will do in Seoul is called They Were Thinking, in the background, Wild Nature. It's danced by 4 dancers, but since we cannot travel, it will be danced by 2 dancers in Seoul and 2 dancers in Berlin. The interest is to share a material being very, very far away. But in this practice of sharing and dancing together, to produce links or produce trajectories from here to there or from there to here, and to consider these trajectories of dancing together, a composed material that we dance as if it is a quartet, although now wide apart. A quartet with episodes of solo, episodes of duo and so on, but yet dancing together, a shared material. And this shared material considered again as a way of being together, although the formation of this is different, as a form of mourning that we cannot be together, and in this respect generating some kind of hope, at least as we feel. Dancing in the theater and so on, here is a matter of finding ways of dancing in public space, for example. And we have also come to see that we are interested in forms of invitation that is slightly different than in the theater. And perhaps there is also something exciting to think about here, a dance in public space, a dance in a park, a dance in a town square, and so on, that is a dance that offers other ways of being together, other ways of considering dance. Oftentimes when I go to see dance in the theater, it is something that I very much look at. But I'm maybe personally more interested in a dance that offers me to see. It offers me to see environment, that offers me to see relations, that offers me to see people, that offers me to see climate. So but as a complement to the dance that we do together, which will be a matter of being together with a dance and not so much a matter of critical reflection, I have also considered and decided to, together with the festival, to during the festival contribute with a blog post or a small text every day. So from the opening day of the festival all the way to the end of the event. Thus, but also not only the weekends but also during the weekdays, thus offering a kind of supplementary critical reflections, personal perspectives onto our current situation, where I think that we radically need to rethink what we think dance and art can do, how we think about distribution, how we think about using technology, etc. Which is needless to say that for the dance that we will do, They Were Thinking, in the background, Wild Nature, there will also be no streaming and links in between video over the internet, etc., etc. But it is rather by thinking dance, understanding dance as something that has a different kind of communication that we want to pursue this situation. Thinking about dance as an international form of art form, and something that has been then developed into an international scene, I was considering what can I do with writing to produce a more direct or specific orientation. So I thought, rather than publishing in English, which is the language that I write in, to consider another idea. What about if I would write this in English, but that the text will be published in Korean first of all, or forever perhaps, so that this is a text that, yes, it's written from my language set, so to say, but it will only be available in Korean. So this is a text for the Korean community. And what it will deal with, this I don't know for the moment, because it is also my intention to think about this writing as a performative writing, namely that it is written on a day-to-day basis throughout the festival. So I have not prepared anything. Also, a strong part will be to a consideration around ecology, and then again, thinking ecology in respect of what art can offer to ecology. So I hope to see you there, and that we can spend a wonderful festival together, however not face to face, but through a rethinking of what together means, through the medium that we cannot stop loving, to dance.